Hello, miraculous women. It's Tiffany, the Miracles Coach. If this is your first time here, welcome. This video is part of a 7-day journey where I guide you to surrender your business to God and allow Him to be your CEO so that you can build a business that flows from divine strategy, divine authority, and divine design. You've landed here mid-series, so my suggestion would be to pause and start with day 1 so you can follow the full experience from the beginning, as all of these days kind of build on one another. If you'd like to do that, I've linked everything for you in the description. Or if you were drawn to this particular video, you're also welcome to stay and watch and see where it leads you. Either way, I am so excited that you're here. Now, for those of you who are back to continue this journey, welcome to day 4, part 2 of the Surrendered Business Experience. In our last episode, we did a deep dive into the relationship between faith, trust, truth, and safety. And then we also talked about how they all work best together. Actually, all of these things make surrender feel more natural and effortless. And then also making surrender a daily practice will also do this for you. Now, with that foundation in place, we're going to get into the embodiment piece, because knowing all of this is one thing, but actually living it is where the miracles happen. So you've chosen to enter what we call in this experience the divine exchange. It's when you give God your fear, your doubt, and your striving in return for His wisdom, His peace, and His power. Today is about what it feels like to live inside that exchange. This is where the identity begins to shift. So this particular lesson is all about creating a daily habit of surrender that grounds you and returns you back to truth when life starts happening, when the money feels slow, when uncertainty is loud, when everything in you wants to control every aspect of your life and business. And then I'm also going to share with you the simple 3-line prayer that I have been using for decades that can shift your heart, your perspective, and your circumstances in a matter of seconds. This is really where it all becomes real, where it all starts to come together, where you really start to get everything. As a matter of fact, it's so interesting because we are literally at the midpoint of this journey. So we are on a second part of day 4. And then, of course, we have the rest of the days 5 through 7 to go. So we're really like right in the middle of everything. And this is honestly where it all starts to make sense, where it all starts to change, and where you can actually start to embody this practice. So I'm super excited about it. So let's get into it. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is take a moment to delve a little bit deeper into the idea of what surrender is. Because remember, on day 2, we learned that it can mean giving up, and we've established that that's okay, right, for us to give up, because when we are giving up to God, there is so much more in store for us. And more importantly, though, what I really want you to know is that surrender is literally your true essence, and it is meant to be fully understood, activated, experienced, and embodied. Some people say, surrender is an art. There's a lot of things that people say about surrender, but it's so much more than just an art. It's more of a heart posture. It's a way of being. It is a divine, holy process. And what you surrender to God becomes consecrated, and it becomes sacred, and it becomes blessed. When you give your life over to God, it becomes His. And that, to me, is the beauty of surrender. That, to me, is what surrender is all about. And this is why I choose surrender every single day. Because when we give our lives and our businesses and our finances and everything in our lives over to God, we get to see what supernatural life, success, and wealth looks like. We get to see it from God's perspective. We get a deeper understanding of what true prosperity is. We stop seeing our jobs and our businesses and our money and all of these external things as our source. We begin to see wealth through a lens and a perspective of surrender, which also includes receiving all of God's riches and blessings, not just money, right? Even though money is a very big part of this lesson. And we're going to talk a lot about money in this particular audio, because I feel like that is the area where people have the most trouble when it comes to surrender. And that's why I love the book, Just Not Your Money by Tosha Silver. I mentioned it in the day 1 lesson, I'm pretty sure. And if you haven't read it yet and you're committed and you're, really moving through this experience with me, I highly, highly, highly recommend it, because I believe that it really helps us to see how when we stop thinking that the money is ours, the business is ours, the goals, the desires, the things are ours, even the life is ours, it changes everything. Like, none of this belongs to us, including us, right? Like, everything belongs to God, including you. And so when we really get that perspective, it really changes everything for us. So when it comes to seeing and knowing what wealth and money and business and miracles and overflow and all of that, how all of that gets to look for us, one of the things that I feel like hurts us the most and keeps us in this perpetual cycle of wanting and never achieving is this incessant need to always be busy and constantly thinking about and trying to figure out what we need to do next, right? It's really just the how, as I always talk about. And like I said, day 7 is one of my favorite days, even though they're all pretty much my favorite, but day 7 is one of my favorite days because we talk really deeply about the how, because this is the thing that trips us up the most. And we're always assuming that there's some specific thing or some specific action that's required or must be done to move forward. And this just keeps us focused on only what's directly in front of us. There's nothing wrong with being a person who is really driven and willing to do the work and truly believes that anything is possible, especially when we know we've been shown something, like we have a vision from God that we want to run with. I mean, God literally tells us to write the vision, make it plain so we can run with it, right? So, I mean, I get it. And I feel like there are a lot of us out there that get that. So we're ready. We're like, let's go, let's do it, let's run. But there could also be this kind of energy, like being willing to do whatever it takes to make things happen. And I'm going to focus on and move forward in the relentless pursuit of the vision. And I don't want to say that that's necessarily a bad thing, but the problem comes in when we're trying to do this on our own and in our own power, as opposed to first getting connected to the power source, like we talked about before, and allowing ourselves to be supernaturally empowered. It's almost like the equivalent of trying to turn on a TV or trying to turn on a lamp or some other appliances like a toaster or something in your kitchen without plugging it in first. And then we wonder why it's not working. And I know that people do this sometimes, like just absentmindedly, they'll be like, they'll put the bread in the toaster or something and push it down and don't realize it's not plugged in. And then you're like, well, what's wrong with it? Why isn't it working? And that's why a lot of times when you see troubleshooting in a manual or something like that, they'll be like, is it plugged in? I mean, because it's common sense, but sometimes it's not, I mean, sometimes you just don't really realize it's not plugged in. But all of that to say, you have to be empowered and get your energy from the power source. And I feel like even a better example would probably be like, let's say you didn't charge your phone or your laptop the night before, and then today you're trying to use it all day with like 20% battery life. But it can't continue to be powered without the power source. Eventually, you're going to have to get back to a charger and somewhere to plug it in. And I go into this in a lot of detail in other teachings and stuff like that, so I don't want to get too deep into that here. But the point is that without the power source, we are extremely limited. Our source is God, and He is the one sustaining us, guiding us, breathing through us, providing for us, doing everything through us. We do have our inner knowing and our intuition and our gifts and abilities and all of that, but we have to remember what's powering it, right? Every gift, every insight, intuitive nudge, and creative idea flows from that connection with God. When we forget that, we start functioning as though we are self-powered, and we begin to live as if everything depends on what we can see and manage, instead of remembering that our very life is upheld by God. And that's why fear will often creep in these types of situations, because a life that is self-powered will always feel fragile. We have to remember that we are spiritual beings living in a physical world. We live and move and exist as humans here in this realm, but our source of power, direction, and supply is not in the 3D. Women like us need to remember that we are in this world, but we are not of it. And I know you've probably heard that countless times, but do you really grasp the depth and the magnitude of that statement? And are you truly believing, living, and speaking it? Because when you say that we are in this world, but we are not of it, what you're really pointing to is order. The spiritual realm, the supernatural realm, is primary. The physical realm is secondary. So the invitation is not to ignore the physical realm, it's to remember what governs it. When your awareness stays rooted in God as the sustaining source, you move differently. You make decisions differently. You respond to fluctuations differently. You don't allow, whatever it is that you're seeing in the 3D to determine what you believe. You instead let what is eternally true, that truth with a capital T, determine how you interpret what you see. So this thing only works when we allow the power of God to work through us. We are meant to be empowered and fed and watered and fueled and equipped by the Holy Spirit. And when we are trying to do things by our own power and our own might, we can only get so far. Now, like I said, there's plenty of people out here that this seems to work for, but I can guarantee you that it does not come without the expense of burnout or worse. When everything runs on personal force, pressure, and willpower, there's always a cost. Always. Okay. It might not show up immediately, but the body keeps the score. The nervous system absorbs the strain. The emotions that never get processed stay stored in the body. When we override grief and ignore exhaustion and silence our intuition and keep pushing because we believe we have to hold everything together, eventually something has to give. Sometimes it manifests as anxiety, irritability, brain fog, or physical symptoms, or maybe even a complete collapse that forces a pause you wouldn't have chosen on your own. And I know sometimes that can feel like punishment, but it's really not a punishment. It's more of a feedback, which simply means your body and your life are responding to how you are living. Those signals are communication. They are your nervous system simply letting you know that this level of internal strain is not sustainable. Like these things happen because you are basically doing too much, you're doing the most, and we're not designed to live under constant pressure. What will happen is there'll be an underlying energy of back and forth and in and out, and a never ending cycle of fear and worry and doubt and stress and frustration and restlessness. And like I said, those are bad, but that's kind of the best of it. I remember in 2018 when I first taught this, and I literally titled this lesson in this day, How to Stop Learning the Hard Way. And I used a few examples from people in my life who had been through some really serious circumstances because they just didn't know how to stop and slow down and, take the pause and things like that. And so I've heard countless stories about people ending up in the hospital because they refused to slow down and listen to their body, because they were trying to live life and move forward in a way that was out of alignment and is incongruent with their divine design. And our divine design is to simply walk by faith and not by sight. It is not by our power or by our might, but by God's spirit. We were designed for dependence on God, not self-sufficiency under pressure. So you can build a life on performance and pressure. You can even build success that way for a season, but you cannot build peace that way. Oh my God. Listen, hear me when I say you cannot build peace that way. And without peace, there will be no sustainability. So this doesn't mean you have to become someone different entirely. If you're someone you feel is designed to be a high level person, high achieving, a creative genius who just seems to have this extraordinary ability to create and make things happen in a way that seems to transcend the natural. That is a gifting of God, right? Like I definitely am somebody who's very much this way. I have an ability to do a lot of things on my own. I am a sacral generator in my human design. So I'm built to go. I'm built to move. They call us the worker bees of the human design world because we can go constantly for hours and hours on end if we're lit up about something. And I can do a lot of things on my own. And a lot of times I will go off and do them. And a lot of times that's gotten me in trouble in the past. It's okay if you feel like this is just the person that you are. It is who God created you to be. And it doesn't really have to change necessarily. But what you do have to change and what you do have to remember is that in Him, you operate differently. There is a different way of doing things. And it's as simple as learning to slow down more and be more intentional about putting God first. It's almost like you have to be more mindful of it. It's not that you have to stop doing things or you can't do things. It's just that you have to keep God at the forefront of your mind. And like I said, this has been a struggle for me a lot because it's easy for me to surrender in every area of my life but my business, because I constantly go back and forth between what I quote unquote should be doing or what I'm supposed to be doing versus what God is saying and what I know I'm feeling guided to do. Does that make sense? And honestly, for those of you who have spent decades backing yourselves and feeling like you've had to figure everything out on your own and make things happen on your own because you learned early on that survival depended on you, I get it. And I see you, okay? That strength has carried you. That resilience built your life. It forced you to learn how to make things happen. It all made you the strong, powerful woman you are today. It made you a survivor. But I want you to hear this straight from my heart to yours. You are allowed to evolve beyond survival. Okay? You are allowed to evolve beyond survival because at some point, what once protected you can actually begin to confine you. That self-reliance that was actually necessary at one point can become the very thing that limits how much you can receive. And that dependency on you and only on you, quite simply, just has to be relinquished at this point. If you want to experience all that God has for you, that dependency on yourself has to be stripped away. Now, I know that self-reliance feels safe because it's familiar, right? Especially if you've been doing this, like I said, for decades. Shout out to all my single moms out there who had to make things happen for their babies, to make sure that their babies ate, to make sure that their babies had a roof, to make sure that their babies were taken care of. I feel that. I understand that, right? However, though, I know that that feels familiar because it's what you've always had to do or felt like. Let's make sure we put that in there. Always felt like you had to do. So it's familiar. And so now dependence on God feels risky because it requires trust. Okay. But only one of these positions expands your capacity beyond yourself. Survival is a baseline. It keeps you afloat, it keeps you moving, but it does not unlock overflow. So do you want to merely survive or do you want to thrive? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. Because there is a version of you who survived because she had to. But there's also a version of you who can thrive because she chooses surrender and partnership with God. Right? Because she chooses to remember her oneness with God. And she chooses to remember that she is the author and the creator of her entire world, and anything that she wants, she can create. You are allowed to choose and step into that version of yourself. And you're allowed to do it now. You're allowed to do it today. You're allowed to not have to wait for that to happen. Thriving begins when you release the belief that everything depends on you. When your nervous system settles and when you trust that support and provision are always available, that's what changes everything. So then how do we do this? Because if you've been living in survival mode for years or even decades, you cannot just decide one day to trust and expect your system to immediately cooperate. Trust is strengthened through repetition. Safety is strengthened through consistency. And surrender becomes natural when it is practiced, lived out, and embodied. So here on the YouTube channel, I'm giving you all the information you need. I have literally poured my entire heart and soul into this course. And the last time I recorded the surrender experience was back in 2023. And technically, I could have just taken, what I already had, used it as a guide, and simply re-recorded everything the same way. But my understanding and my embodiment of surrender has deepened so much. I went through every single audio one by one, and I asked myself, what else do I know that could help them understand this even more now? And then I added each thing. So every time I came up with a new thing, like, okay, yeah, I can share this with them. Oh, and I went through this, I want to share that with them. I put everything in here so that you could truly understand this process. So I know there are a lot of people out there, a lot of coaches, a lot of whoever, gurus, whatever you want to call them, that teach us to do something very specific when we run an experience like this. We're taught to give you the what and the why, but to hold back the how. The idea is that you give people just enough insight to inspire them, but you save the real substance for later, for your courses, for whatever. And I understand why people do that, because basically, that's how you make money. That's how you get paid. I get that. And they want you to pay for the how. That's why, if you notice, sometimes most people will leave webinars or so-called quote unquote master classes or whatever, feeling like they didn't really learn anything. I know I've left so many experiences thinking that this was an hour of my life I will never get back. Like, it was a total waste of time. But their goal was only for you to buy the thing to find out what you most wanted and needed to know. Their goal wasn't to give you all the information you needed so that you could be powerful and go out there and take care of it and, crush it and do it on your own. And that's cool. I get it. But I just don't teach that way. It's not how I'm wired. Because I believe that every woman who comes into my space is powerful. I believe that exactly you, the person who is listening to this right now, you are a powerful, miraculous woman. So I can give you everything here, and I can decide that I'm not going to hold anything back, and I'm not ever holding anything back. And I can be completely honest with you and trust that you can go out there and do what you need to do for yourself. And that's what I want for you. I want you to take what I taught you here and go out there and do what it is that you're called to do and live a life that is miraculous and wealthy, where you're powerful and you're impacting lives and all of those things. I want you to go out there and break generational curses and transform your bloodlines. And that's why I choose to give you everything here. That's why I choose to hold nothing back. And to be completely honest with you, I had fully decided last year that this experience was only going to live inside of one of my paid containers. I had already decided the surrender experience, and I think I told y'all this before, I had decided to remove it from the forefront of my business because I felt like it was more of a back end thing. Here's another thing that they teach you in the coaching industry. Sell them what they want, give them what they need. So I'm going to come out here and do a song and dance for you and make you want the thing. Tell you about manifestation and all of these airy fairy ideas and things that I can pull you in with, and then give you what you actually need behind the scenes. So I felt like it wasn't something that needed to continue to be in the forefront. If I wanted to even sell this, or if I wanted to even present this, I needed to change maybe the name of it or give it a different identity or give it some other kind of more exciting, feel to it. But no, this is what it is. This is the surrendered business experience. That is exactly what we're doing. surrender business. And I want that to be very clear. And yeah, and it's so interesting because all of my other courses are miracles courses. They're titled miracles. So I'm used to naming everything with miracles and stuff like that. But I decided that the surrender business experience just needed to be what it was. It needed to be spoken that way because people who understand surrender will understand what we're talking about and they'll know if it's for them right away. And so God nudged me multiple times, as I've shared, to put this on the YouTube channel publicly and not behind a paywall or to continue hiding it in my private spaces. He wanted it somewhere where anyone who needed it could find it. So if the only thing you ever did was sit here on this YouTube channel and listen to these lessons, you would learn something extremely valuable and life-changing. You would still have everything you needed to begin walking this out in your life and in your business if you choose to. And so I surrendered my own thoughts, right, and my own plans and what I thought was quote unquote right to honor what God was asking me to do. Because for one, that is the entire point of this journey, right? This is what this journey is all about. But also because I believe truth should be shared freely. So I wanted to make it accessible to anyone who wanted to take it. I wanted this to be something anyone could step into if they felt called to it. And so half-assing it or only giving you bits and pieces of it was not an option for me. Now, with that said, if someone wants to go deeper, there's more mentorship and community and containers and all of that stuff. That's where all of that comes in. That's where you get to walk this out together and embody it at an even deeper level. In my world, when it comes to mentorship, like I said, I never see women who come into my spaces as helpless or powerless. I don't believe anyone needs me in order to succeed. You are already powerful. And this is probably against everything. Like if another coach is listening to this, they're probably like, what in the world? This is how I truly feel. You are already powerful. You are already the freaking miracle. You already have access to everything you need because you have full access to the source. Not only do you have full access to the source, but you are one with the source of all things. You were created whole, perfect, and complete. My work is simply to help you remember that. My gift is to help you reconnect with that divine power that has always been available to you. I give you the tools, the practices, the perspectives, and the frameworks that help you return to that truth again and again. Because in the noise of life, right, in the distractions and all of that stuff that goes on in your business, the expectations, the conditioning, all of that stuff, the vision can get very distorted and it becomes very easy to forget who you are and whose you are and where your power actually comes from and what you're actually capable of. Sometimes we simply need someone to shine a light for us. And that's exactly what my mentors do for me. I know I'm powerful. I already know that I'm miraculous. I don't need them. But I decided that I deserve to be supported on my journey. No coach or mentor can make you something that you're not already. You can't become something that you already are. So I never see it as needing help. I never see myself as needing help because I can't do it on my own. And I never see you that way either. I never assume that you can't do this on your own. I see it as powerful women choosing support. It's a power to power dynamic. It's a power to power decision. I'm a powerful being and you're a powerful being. And you're simply making a choice to be supported by someone who has already walked the path you're on. Someone who can lead you back to God, back to yourself, and back to your divinity and miraculousness when the noise of the world pulls you away from it. That's all I'm here to do for you. And that's all my mentors do for me. And there's something so freaking beautiful about that kind of support because it accelerates things. It brings perspectives and it allows you to go deeper and embody things more quickly. So it's simply a choice. That's all. But like I said, here on YouTube, I'm always going to give you the real. I'm always going to give you my all, period. Because that's just how I'm designed. Some people might say that's not smart from a business perspective, but it's the only way I know how to teach. And honestly, I wouldn't want it any other way. And so that's one of the reasons why it's taken me over 6 months to re-record this whole thing. Every insight and realization and layer of understanding has come through my own walk with God and actually living this out in my life and business. And the interesting thing is in 2018, I went on a surrender journey before I taught the surrender experience because I actually had decided to surrender and lived through it. And then I was like, oh my God, other people need to know this, right? But in 2023, I was kind of in the process and I was moving through it. Same way here. And now it's evolved because if I had come and just re-recorded 2023 for you, then I would have been able to just record it and get it done. The thing is though, it's funny because it's like, this is the surrendered business experience. And I hadn't actually fully gotten clear on how to fully surrender in my business when I started teaching this. And this is what makes it so interesting with God. And this is something that I really want to make clear here. And this is a complete tangent that I probably should not be going off on because it's not in my notes, but God knows best. And what I want you to know is that when God calls you to do something, It's not because he thinks you're an expert at the thing already. Sometimes it's a learning experience and a process. And honestly, this is just how I'm designed. Like, this is also something that comes up in my human design. I have to learn as I go. I learn, I make mistakes, I do different things, and then I come back and I show people how to not make the same mistakes. I show people, oh, you know what? I know some people say this way is better, but this is also a really great way you can try to do this, right? So, like, I want to make that clear because I don't want you out here, if you're somebody who knows you have a gift or whatever, and you're sitting on it because you feel like I'm not equipped enough, or I'm not ready enough to teach this, or I don't know enough. I haven't had enough success in this area yet. I haven't whatever, insert your BS, excuse here, right? Like, I want you to realize that you can do what God is calling you to do, even when it's imperfect. So, yes, on the outside looking in, y'all might look at me and think it's crazy that Tiffany hasn't posted a video on this experience since I think December was the last time, and this is March. So you're probably looking at it like, girl, what are you doing behind the scenes? Or what are you doing? Now, obviously, you've seen me because I'm present. Now, I'm a lot more present than I was early on because I hadn't released Miracles Unscripted, which I think God also did on purpose. I wish I could just like it just is such a beautiful process. God has amazed me in this process, and he was showing me through every step. So now I was literally just telling my daughter this. When people come to my channel, I'm actually going to start speaking into existence that people watch every video on my channel. And I know that sounds crazy, but trust me, it ain't gonna be a ton of videos up all the time. Well, it might actually, but I'm not somebody who's putting up a video every day or whatever. I'm not that person. But what I realize about my channel is that I tell a story, and you're going to see the story play out from start to finish. So you're going to be able to see exactly how this whole surrendered business thing unfolded. If you're somebody who believes that God is calling you to a surrendered business, I would suggest you watch every single video, because every single video that I did just kept running into another thing and another thing. And you could watch my entire journey unfold. And also, behind the scenes, you definitely should get the Miracles Unscripted behind the scenes, because you get to see what was happening in real time as I was coming through the struggles that I was dealing with early on. And there's so much I can say about this, but like I said, this is already a tangent that I don't need to go off on. The point that I want to make is, let it be imperfect. Let it be God-led. Let it be authentic. Let it be learning as you go, right? Nobody says that we have to be perfect to do this work. I believe that we're all powerful, like I said. You only have to be able to have, like, I just have walked certain things that you may not have yet in this particular experience. That doesn't mean in every area of life. So all of that to say, every insight and every realization and every layer of understanding that I've had has come through my own walk and actually living this out in the past 6+ months. I've been revisiting, refining, expanding, and allowing God to continue teaching me along the way. Because like I told you guys in the very beginning, every time God calls me to do this experience, it's always for me first. And I used to get really nervous about that. And I was a little nervous about it this time too, even when I said it, because I was just like, oh boy, what's going to happen? Like, okay, what am I about to go through now? But at the same time, I smile and I get really excited about it because I know it's all working for my good. And there are moments where I think like, okay, God, I think I know everything there is to know about surrender. Like, what else is there to know at this point? But of course, I know that there are much deeper layers that I probably still haven't even gotten close to yet. But I can teach this without all the drama. We don't have to go through a whole bunch of this, learning lessons and all that. Let me just teach it and let's be done. But yeah, no, God's just like, nope, every time, every single time, there's so much more than I could have ever imagined. And there's so much more that he wants to show me and teach me and help me to understand, so that I can in turn help you to understand. And I've come to see so much beauty in that process, because I know he's preparing me, he's refining me, he's making me bolder and wiser and more grounded in what I'm here to teach you. Every season stretches my understanding, sharpens my discernment, strengthens my relationship with him. And this time has truly been the most powerful and life-changing, because I'm teaching this to you as I'm walking it out in real time. I'm deepening the practice of fully and completely surrendering my business, because like I said, as much as I had mastered surrender in my life, my business was such a difficult layer for me. That was the place where I kept catching myself trying to control things, trying to figure things out, trying to make things happen the way that I thought they should happen. And I've been getting so much more insight about that I'll have to share later with you in some Miracles Unscripted episodes or something, because it definitely can't come in here. But what God has been showing me over the past few months is that surrender in business is actually so much more simpler than I thought, than any of us probably think. Because you simply just stop believing you have to do it the way everybody else does. You stop looking around at other people's strategies or what other people's timeline is, and you stop trying to force yourself to fit onto these paths that were not designed for you. You stop assuming that someone else's way is the way, like someone else has all the answers or the people around you on social media know more than God, when God was the one who gave you the vision in the first place and is the only one, hear me, the only one who holds your divine blueprint and instructions for how your life and your business are meant to unfold. You cannot walk this out without him. You cannot walk out his vision without him. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the ultimate GPS, CEO, business strategist, business partner, literally whatever you need him to be. He is the absolute best at it. And over the past 6 or so plus months, he's been taking me through this process of living and breathing and practicing and experiencing and letting surrender reshape the way that I show up in my business, which means that what you are receiving here isn't just some manufactured from someone else or learned from ChatGPT crap that you can find anywhere on the internet. This is something that I have literally lived, tested, and embodied. And now I am able to share it with you from a much more grounded place. But here's the most important part I want you to get. Information alone does not transform your life. Integration does. You can hear truth once and feel inspired. You can even understand it intellectually. But transformation happens when truth becomes something you practice, return to, and live from every single day. And that's exactly why immersion matters so much. So, with all of that said, the 21-day surrendered business immersion is where we literally immerse ourselves in surrender for weeks. And you've probably heard the idea that it takes 21 days to begin forming a new habit. That's one of the reasons why I love this immersion so much. And that's one of the reasons it's structured the way that it is, because listening to someone occasionally and immersing yourself in it are two completely different things. Some of you may have been following along with this channel for months. You've been walking with me through these teachings and we've been walking together through this experience over this time, but it's been more like moments of exposure, a video here, a lesson there, especially because, it's been so spaced out. The 21-day immersion is where you move from simply hearing the ideas and actually living them day after day. 21 days of daily returning, daily remembering, daily recalibrating your nervous system and your business around God as the source. It gives you a real window of time to step out of the old way of doing things and begin practicing something new every day. Because like I said before, surrender is more than just a concept or an art and all of those different things. It is a divine rhythm. And when you immerse yourself in that rhythm long enough, things begin to shift. Your decisions change and your content changes, your leadership changes, and you begin to build from overflow instead of pressure. So in the 21-day immersion, I'll actually be sharing the exact prayers I pray daily to keep my mind and my heart in a space of true surrender. And it keeps me focused on God, so I'm not constantly wandering off the path that he's laid out for me. I honestly hadn't even considered sharing these before, but one of the ladies in the 21-day experience back in 2023 asked if I would share them after day 1 or 2 when I had mentioned some of the prayers that I pray. And she was like, oh my God, can you share the prayers? And I was like, well, I never really thought about it, but yeah, absolutely. I'd be honored to share it. And I was delighted that she'd asked. So it's one of the first things that I share in the immersion. So if you want to jump into the 21-day experience and fully immerse yourself in surrender as a lifestyle and as a daily practice, and you want to learn how to stop defaulting back to that incessant need to figure things out, this is going to support you in building a habit of consistency. Plus, you'll get a lot of behind the scenes looks at how I incorporate surrender in every aspect of my life, from self-care to parenting to business, all of it. And you can listen to all of the audios again and again and again whenever you need a refresher course on slowing down and letting go, which you most likely will, because we all do. Even me, just like I tell you guys, as much as I have this quote unquote down or mastered, which I use those words lightly, let's be clear, but I know that there's so much more to this. So as much as I think I have it, I still have work to do and I'm still learning every day. And so the more I learn, the more I pour into you in these spaces that I've created for us. So with all of that said, all of the links that you need will be in the description. Okay. Now, as we wrap up for today, I want to dive into how to make surrender and connection a daily practice and share the simple prayer that I use that transforms any circumstance in a matter of seconds and that makes this entire process really, truly effortless. So, what I want to propose is a daily practice every single day, no matter what, where your connection with God is primary over everything. And the awesome thing about doing this practice is that as you do it, you will naturally start to draw closer to God. And of course, He will in turn draw closer to you. And when you're in God and He is in you, you will naturally align yourself more in your own heart's desires and ultimately what He wants for you, because He will make your desires match His desires. And everything will unfold more beautifully than anything you could have ever planned. God can do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think. So when you do this and you really commit to making this connection your top priority every single day, you'll see your life unfolding in ways you could not have even imagined. Okay, now I shared a few scriptures in the last audio that all sum this up so perfectly. So first, the seek ye first scripture, the delight yourself in the Lord scripture, acknowledge God and He will direct your path scriptures. I'll put them all on the screen for you because I don't want to have to necessarily go through all of them again, because there's only one that I really, really want to highlight today. Is one that I really, really love, and this one stood out to me so much. And actually, I want to share a post that I saw back in 2023, not too long after I had finished the surrender experience that time when I re-recorded it, by Joel Osteen, that made this description one that I pray every day now. So here's what the post said. In John 15, Jesus was talking to the disciples. This was one of the last times they would be together before He was crucified. He said in verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you abide in me, you will bear much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Now imagine how important, this is still the post, imagine how important these words were. He could have talked to them about performing miracles, being strong, starting new churches, but when He was about to leave, He told them, this is how you're going to be successful. This is how you're going to overcome challenges. This is how you're going to fulfill your destiny. Abide in me and you will bear much fruit. I get so riled up when I hear the scripture, when I read it, it's one of my favorite scriptures. And like I said, I shared this scripture in the last audio, but I want to share the full scripture again here because the Joel Osteen post left out my favorite part of the scripture. The best part, in my opinion, the best part of the scripture is abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. Listen, y'all, I can't even with the scripture. And I want you to notice something really important about the part that says, he who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. Jesus is not only saying you should abide in Him. What He is saying is He will also abide in you when you abide in Him, meaning the relationship is reciprocal. When you choose to remain connected to Him, He actively remains within you. Think about how powerful that is. What He is saying is that you are never trying to live this life, build your business, carry your calling, raise your children, break generational curses, become the first millionaire in your bloodline by yourself. When you abide in Him, His wisdom, His power, His guidance, strength, provision, everything that you could possibly ever need flows through you, straight from Him, just like a branch connected to a vine. The branch does not have to struggle to produce fruit. The life of the vine flows through it. Oh my God, so freaking powerful. And that's the picture Jesus wanted to leave with the disciples. That is the picture He wants us to have right now. That's what He wants us to see today. When you stay connected to the source, when you stay connected to the life force of the source of all things, everything flows through you. Fruit does not have to effort to grow, nor do babies or flowers or acorns or caterpillars. The blueprint for a butterfly is in the caterpillar's DNA. It cannot not become what God has already ordained it to be. And it's the same with us. What I love so much about this is that it's a gentle reminder that all these things we're always so busy trying to do all the time that we think need to be done are not even necessary. Can you imagine a baby in the womb efforting to grow? Let me grow my lungs and make my lungs stronger so I can be born and whatever. Seriously. And it sounds ridiculous, right? Because that's exactly how we sound when we're trying to do all of these things out in the world without God's support and help. And most of it is stuff that can naturally be done behind the scenes without us even having to think about it or put in any effort to do it. And even if they were necessary, oh my God, they'd still be secondary to your daily, even moment by moment connection with God. They'd be secondary to that. God is asking us to abide in Him. That is His primary desire, for us to abide in Him. But are you? Are we? So the work is simple here, right? Decide what your daily practice is going to be. I would say it should come before you start your day or do pretty much anything. That's just what I would personally recommend. That's what I do. That's what I always recommend for my clients. I always encourage you to put God first before anything else that you're doing. Even if you can't do all of it, like even if you have like a routine and you can't do everything, there should be some level of God being first in your day. And I play around with this personally because I remember one of my coaches from a few years ago, she would say, like when she first woke up, God needed to be the first voice that she heard every day. Now, I agree with that to some extent, and I like the idea, but I found that back then, because I wasn't as connected with God as I am now, like right now, that's super easy for me to do. But when I was trying to do that back then, it was kind of a struggle to drop in on my own. It didn't feel like it was as easy or as effective as when I listened to something first to kind of get me in the energy. Now I listen to prayers and affirmations all night while I sleep. So that's always playing in my ears when I wake up. So that usually ushers me in effortlessly. Most days I flow straight into gratitude from there, and then that really gets me going. And some days, depending on what kind of mood I'm in, I'll turn on some worship music, or sometimes I'll put on an audiobook. Sometimes I'll turn on one of my coaches because I know that they're always good soul food and good medicine and good vibes and energy for me to start my day in. So whatever it is that you choose, some of the things could include, or some examples could be thanking God for your day, giving it back to Him, some sort of morning prayer, requesting His and the Holy Spirit's guidance and direction throughout your day, reading the Bible or any other spiritual books or texts that you enjoy, asking for revelation and insight for the text that you're reading. It could be empty presence and surrender. I actually talk a lot about these two together because I believe they go beautifully hand in hand. And I share more about this in great detail in both the 21-day immersion and Millions in Miracles. And actually in Millions in Miracles, I share my full millionaire miracle method, which are the 7 daily elements of a miraculous millionaire life. This is the proven method I've used and lived for over a decade, the rhythm I've committed to day after day that has supported me in creating a life filled with miracles, provision, divine guidance, overflow, and most importantly, a deep, intimate connection and co-creative partnership with God. So I share this practice with you as the foundation of the Millions in Miracles experience, as a daily process that keeps you anchored in miraculous millionaire frequency. And surrender, of course, is one of the main components because, first of all, it's important to understand. This is something that I really need to make sure that you understand about surrender, because people have all these ideas about surrender and what's negative and, how it impacts you and all these different things. But what people do not understand is that if you are not surrendering to God, you're still surrendering to something. There's something in your life that you, in a sense, deem more important than God. Whether it's work, whether it's your children, your significant other, anything that you're doing on a daily basis that, and this might come off a little harsh or extreme or maybe even dramatic to some people, but honestly, it's just the truth. And it's something that we can all stand to hear, because if you are putting anything above the opportunity to spend time with God, to surrender to God, and like I said, sleep, watching TV, hanging out on social media, we don't even want to go there because some people spend their life scrolling. No shade to that. I used to spend a lot of time, but I definitely wasn't doing it overspending time with God. But I still used to spend a lot of time hanging out on social media. I don't spend any time on social media anymore. You'll rarely find me there. And it's not to say that you can't do anything else in your life. And like I said, no judgment to any of these things. I realized that when things started to really change for me was when I started to learn that I could put God first every day, or that I should. I honestly suggest that you pray and have time with God and yourself before you do anything else in your day. I think about it almost like tithing, just like how, in the Bible, it talks about tithing the first fruits of your pay or whatever. So you give your 10%. Like, you should definitely do that. I encourage doing that with your time as well. I know that there will be days that sometimes you have to move quickly, and that's just a part of life. But it's so important to make this a priority so that you already create the space for it. Now, granted, and I always tell people this, I have a very chill flow, easy life. Like, I don't have to jump up and go to work every day. I don't have to wake up to an alarm clock. I rarely keep a lot of things in my schedule. Even if I have to go to the doctor, they don't see me till around noon. Like, I'm not doing stuff early in the day because I like to have my time with God first. But it's really important that you make this a top priority. And here's why. When you put God at the beginning of the day, and I learned it actually from a couple different places. Marianne Williamson for one, but also Abraham Hicks, because Marianne would talk about asking the Holy Spirit to guide your day and asking God to bless and breathe on your life and your circumstances. Also, when I started listening to Abraham Hicks audios, they would always talk about the high flying disc. And basically, what the high flying disc is that when you wake up, you're typically in the highest vibration, in a very high, very strong vibration. Nobody really wakes up in a bad mood unless they went to bed in one. And that's also why having a nighttime routine is very important as well, because you want to go to bed in peaceful energy so that you can awaken peaceful energy. Yeah. So that's why a lot of times when I teach the actual like practice for this particular audio, I always explain that you can do it in the morning and at night. It's really only necessary to do it once a day, but I would suggest even doing it twice a day because it's just that powerful. The more you do it, the more it changes. Yeah. So waking up and going to bed in a peaceful energy is what you want. But if you hop on socials as soon as you start your day, or you turn on the television, or you just rush out the door to work or whatever, and all these things could be happening out in the world, those things will be what's controlling your day. So let's say you wake up and you get dressed and you get out the door and you realize you have a flat tire. Well, now your day could be ruined. It shouldn't be, but you're probably going to feel like some pretty strong energy around that. And if you leave and then you get out on the road and there's a ton of traffic, or there's an accident, or there's something, going on, that's also controlling your day. If you jump on social media and there's some negative news or report, something that happened throughout the night, now that's controlling your day. There could be things that you run into as soon as you walk out the door or before you even get out the house. But what you need to understand is that if you have a practice where you take care of you take care of your energy by connecting with God and your oneness with God, and you get on your high flying disc before you leave the house, then those things don't have as much of an effect on you. Now you're able to deal with whatever it is that you need to deal with because you're now connected to your truth and your power. So I hope that makes sense. The key is to get control of your day before the day gets control of you, even if all you believe you have is 5 minutes. And if you don't have 5 minutes, that's an entirely different issue for a different day. So I'm not even going to go there. I just believe that it's really important that we make time. And I believe that this is an actual quote by Marianne Williamson, but according to A Course in Miracles, it says 5 minutes spent with God's Spirit in the morning guarantees He will be in charge of our thought forms throughout the day. Each morning we can begin with a spiritual confidence, surrendering to God's will and praying that our eyes be opened to the miracles He has planned for us. Each day can be miraculous, and we now have opened eyes to see it. Such a powerful quote. And I personally do some sort of routine every day, but it's not always the same. So if I feel pressed to get to some other things, I may spend less time on these days. But lately, honestly, nothing else comes before my time with God and my time for myself. It's just the season that I'm in right now, and I don't really foresee it changing anytime in the near future because I finally get what God has been trying to show me all these years. And it ties greatly into all the work that I'm doing here and my own personal surrender business experience that I'm walking through. Like I told you, I went back and forth with this for so long. And while I truly believe in divine timing and that I'm always exactly where I'm meant to be, this very well could have slowed my progress because I kept double dutching with it. God couldn't move me forward until I learned this lesson of how to truly, fully, completely surrender in my business. In my everyday life, it's always been pretty easy, like I said, but surrender in my business it's just always been so complicated due to all of the conditioning of the world and of this industry and all the pressure out there. But the more connected I am to God and my truth that I am one with Him. And because of that, I have everything I need. And outside of that, nothing else really matters. The more effortless this life and this business becomes. And that's what I'm always trying to explain about doing the work. Like this work is super important to me. It's work that is necessary. And I know when people aren't used to doing it, it doesn't seem like it's that important. But it is imperative that you make time for God and yourself, that you make you and God your top priority every single day if you desire to live a life that is more easeful and more flow and more miraculous. So the things that I do are like meditation, breath work, tapping, yoga, walking, pacing, dancing, just moving your body in any way as you speak to God is very powerful. Journaling, of course, I haven't been journaling as much lately, but it's so extremely powerful and it has absolutely transformed my life in miraculous ways over and over again in the past 2 decades. It's just so vitally important that you take time to connect to the power source, to your oneness with God, to your truth, and you're surrendering everything to God and then also claiming, commanding, declaring, decreeing, all of those things, thanking God in advance for all the things that you desire and want to see happening and unfolding in your life and in your business as well. So right now you may have some minimal practice or no practice at all with God in your day right now, but I really want you to commit to starting one if you don't, even if it's just 5 minutes, no matter what. And just ask God to guide you. Ask God to reveal to you what you need to know. Ask God to help you make more time and space for the things that you need to do. I remember one of the things that I was telling God back in 2023 was like, I don't know how to find the time and the space to do all the things that I feel like need to be done throughout the day. And I still feel like that sometimes now. So I'll ask, like, give me the time and space as I give you the time and space. Like, as I submit myself to you, as I surrender to you every day, and I take this time, which is usually hours on end. Sometimes it could be 2 to 3 hours, even more sometimes, that I'm just literally sitting at God's feet. And I'll ask him, like, help me to get the other things done. Like, I have so many things that I need to do, like as a mom, as a homeschool mom, because, momming and then homeschool momming is completely different, because, you got to be regular mom and then your teacher mom. So they're different, right? So I got to do that. And then I have a husband. So being a wife, a coach, running my business, and then a woman who just has my own needs and who needs my own self-care and rest and all of that. So I literally just asked him to, like, open the time and space for me and rearrange time and space so that I can do all the things that I feel like I need to do. And that alone can change everything for you. I just always try to take, like, for me, taking that time for God first is primary. That's always my goal. I would suggest that if you really want to live a surrendered life, if you really want to have this life that you just really don't have to worry about things that you really shouldn't have to be worrying about, as a miraculous woman of God, as a daughter of God, as one with God, you should not have to be concerning yourselves with things like money and bills, things that God can be taking care of for you. Even your business. Like, if you're just doing what your primary calling is, and that's acknowledging and honoring God and giving your day and yourself and your entire life to God and taking time to truly understand who God is, abiding in him and making him your top priority every day, it's life changing. So today, like I said, we want to start creating a daily practice of surrender, a daily practice in general, but definitely including surrendering, handing over, giving up, whatever it is that you want to call it. I think Tosha Silver calls it offering in her book, which I think is really beautiful. Because I actually had a client tell me once that she didn't like the word surrender because she didn't like the negative connotations that surround it. And I understood that, but I told her, well, then you need to find a different word that feels better to you and use that, because this is non-negotiable. You can't just opt out because you don't like the word. Just find a word that feels better. So there are a lot of different words you can use to soften the word surrender if you feel like you need that. But we can also just, be grown and pray and talk to God about things and work through them and figure it out. And she did that. And that's what I love about her. She was one of my most successful clients because she was just always someone who was willing to do what it takes. And when it comes to this kind of work, that's kind of how you have to be. We can do what it takes in every other area in our lives. So let's be that way when it comes to this as well. And I promise you that if you really take this seriously and really take time to connect with God every day, it will miraculously transform every single area of your life. Okay? Now, before we wrap up day 4, I want to pause here for a moment because the next part is incredibly important. Every day in this experience includes reflection and exercises to help you integrate what I am sharing with you here. All of them are extremely powerful. All of them are incredibly important. And I strongly encourage you to engage with them, as I have in every video up to this point. But the practice I'm about to give you for day 4 is another level. Okay? This is where everything we've discussed up to this point really takes shape. In the miracles realm, and of course in the 21-day immersion, you receive access to the exact daily practice I created back since 2018 that allowed me to manifest a completely renewed marriage, a miracle baby, 2 of my most successful and lucrative launches I've had in my business to date, and nearly 100K within about 14 months while not working for more than 12 months. Okay. I don't know a lot of people that can tell you they make money just by sitting around, just by sleeping, just by praying, whatever. People are going to tell you, you can't sit around and meditate and make money. Yes, you can. I've done it. I've proven it multiple times in my life. And this is just another time that I've proven it. So I'm going to share that exact experience with you. One of my clients, Liz, also manifested a new job, a move to another country, and a $40,000 salary increase. Another client, Paula, manifested $37,000. Other clients have manifested new careers, new homes, soulmate relationships, marriages, their own miracle babies. All of that began with this practice. Okay. So when I tell you this part matters, like, I cannot stress it enough. This is where the surrender experience becomes a surrender practice. Remember the divine exchange we talked about on day 2. Today's lesson is all about what it feels like to actually live inside that exchange through daily practice. This is the embodiment practice where you begin to live and lead from the surrendered identity. It's the shift from I surrendered, which is like a one-time thing, into I live a surrendered life. I am a surrendered being, right? The identity shift is the key here, and it is what allowed me and the clients that I mentioned to experience miracles and results that defy logic. This practice takes you from a single prayer, which I'm going to share with you in just a moment, into a full operating system. It's the frequency where your nervous system begins to relax, your presence deepens, and your oneness with God strengthens, and your authority as the author and the creator of your reality solidifies. Everything changes because your business, your leadership, and most importantly, your identity are now anchored in surrender every day. And that simple shift changes the entire game. So if you have something that you've asked God for that you're not seeing in your 3D reality, I dare you to try this practice for 21 days or even a month and see how many miracles can unfold in your life. So if you have not joined the Miracles Realm up to this point, you absolutely should for this particular lesson, if for no other. Although, like I said, I highly suggest you engage with all of them because all of the lessons are powerful. And those first 7 lessons are also the first 7 days of the 21-day surrender experience. So you can get access to the full 7-day experience in the Miracles Realm, which is now free for now. I have been feeling very called lately to make it a monthly membership very soon, depending on when I actually get this video up. Since March is my birthday month and what I like to call Miraculous Woman Month, I'm feeling strongly that this space will continue to be free for only the rest of this month as a gift to anyone who feels called to step into it. So it will likely transition from free to paid sometime in April. Anyone who joins during this open season will remain there as a founding member, which means you'll continue to have access without ever being charged. You'll be able to continue to be in the space as it grows and as new exclusive experiences are added. As a matter of fact, I'm also going to add to day 4, along with the surrender practice of how to use this prayer as a daily anchor, a meditation that will support you in taking a moment to slow down, breathe, and really drop into what we've been talking about over these past few lessons, not just mentally, but actually feeling it in your body. Because surrender is more than something we actually just conceptualize in our minds. It's something we have to learn to feel and experience. Is something we must learn to embody. And the most effective way to experience that shift is by pausing, taking a few breaths, and actually allowing yourself to settle into the presence of God right in the moment. And that's what this meditation is designed to do. It's a quick practice that helps you release the tension you may be carrying, reconnect with the truth we've been talking about, and open yourself to that place of peace and trust where surrender actually becomes more natural and effortless. And if you find it helpful, you can return to it as often as you like and even use it daily as the foundation of your new surrender practice. Okay? So if you feel called to go deeper into this work and walk through the experience the way it is designed, this is the time to step into the Miracles Realm before it evolves into its next phase. Now, I want to briefly explain the difference between the Miracles Realm and the Millions in Miracles Realm because I have 2 different programs that serve 2 very different purposes, okay? The Miracles Realm, which is free right now, is about the foundation. It's where we talk about surrender and partnership with God, miracles, and learning how to live and lead from that place. It's the beginning of the journey. The Millions in Miracles Realm takes that foundation and focuses it into a very specific direction. More wealth, overflow, and miraculous prosperity, right? Into the millionaire frequency. So if you feel the call to go even deeper than just the Miracles Realm, the 21-day immersion is available exclusively in the Millions in Miracles Realm and also includes the Millions in Miracles Intensive, the Miraculous Flow Experience, the Miraculous Enrich AF Activation, and all of the Miracle Oasis wealth courses that have been building in this brand for years, now all in one sacred space. Plus, everything inside the Miracles Realm is included automatically. These are deeply wealth-coded teachings designed to help you expand your relationship with money, miracles, and abundance. And this is where together we stop performing for the internet and start building with God, where your miraculous millionaire identity gets fully embodied, where surrender stops being a concept and simply shifts to who you be. So this is the room where surrendered millionaires and miraculous millionaires are made. And right now it's available at the founder's rate, locked in forever for the woman who knows that 2026 is her year to make millionaire impact and income and is ready to step into her Millions in Miracles era and is bold enough to say yes before the price doubles. Okay? So Miracles Realm free right now. It's going to have a cost probably sometime in April. The Millions in Miracles Realm is also going to double eventually. Okay. So now that we got all of that taken care of, the last thing I want to share with you today is what I call the miracle prayer. But the way that you actually live this prayer, the journaling process, the daily practice that turns your mornings into a beautiful spiritual rhythm, you can only access that in the Miracles Realm. Okay. And the reason why I placed it there instead of sharing it here, as with all the other exercises and daily assignments, is very intentional, because this is not something I want you to hear once and move on. This is something I want you to take time to sit with, something that you take time to practice, and something that you return to every day. Like I said, if you watch the videos and you only want to do that, that's totally cool. That's going to give you so much revelation, and that alone can change your life. But the practices are what create the actual integration and transformation. Okay. So this prayer that I'm going to share with you right now, I've personally been praying this prayer for nearly 2 decades now. I originally learned this prayer from Marianne Williamson forever ago, probably sometime around 2010 when I was going through depression and when she first came into my life. Like, it changed everything for me. And she's spoken about this prayer and many other things for many years through her teachings of A Course in Miracles. And it's incredibly simple, okay? And this is the prayer. Dear God, I surrender this to you. I'm willing to see this differently. I'm asking for a miracle. That's it. And the beauty of this prayer is in its simplicity. I've prayed this prayer over any type of fear, uncertainty, and or confusion or anything like that in my life, with business decisions, raising my children, in my marriage, in my other relationships, when it comes to money, like anything you could ever think of to have a concern about. This prayer is so powerful because in just a few sentences, you release control, you open your perception, and you invite divine intervention. And that shift is what creates miracles. Okay? So, and day 5, I love day 5. It's one of my favorite days, but like I said, I'm probably going to say that every week because I love all of these days so much. But day 5 is all about surrender being a divine feminine superpower and how you can use this power to work miracles in your life. I cannot wait to share that with you. I promise I will try not to be gone as long as I've been gone, but this is a surrendered experience, more so than I realized at the beginning. And I'm just going to go with the flow. And when I feel guided and when I feel God is, sharing that it's time for me to move to the next step, I will do that. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to keep you in the loop. I'm going to be dropping Miracles Unscripted episodes. So make sure you're tuning into all of the audios and stuff that I post, because I'm always sharing behind the scenes things and telling you what's going on in between so that you understand the surrendered business experience at a deeper level. If you are not listening to the Miracles Unscripted episodes, you definitely should, because like I said, that is literal surrender business embodied. That is me living it out for you, showing you every time I record an audio exactly how I am living this out. So it really gives you so much more insight than you get. I mean, you get tons of insight here, but it gives you even more insight in how to actually live this out. So definitely check those out if you're into this experience and if you're enjoying it. And so, as I always say, if you made it this far, thank you so much for being here. I would love to know your thoughts about today's lesson. Please comment, let me know, share with me, share with us your experience. And of course, if you have any questions, hangups, or if there's anything you don't understand, please do not hesitate to ask, and I'll be happy to answer your questions either in the comments or, like I said, you can come over to the Miracles Realm and I'll be happy to answer your questions there. I'd also appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell so you can be notified when I drop the next video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have an extraordinary, beautiful, miraculous day, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Mwah. Lots of love and miracles.